Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And we're back again with another episode for you guys today. It is episode 201. We just had the 200th episode yesterday, and we kind of had a little bit happen over the past day.
Right.
We know a little bit more information on the Brady jersey, or I should say the missing jersey saga. We have a little bit more information on that. No, we have the NFL League meeting happening next Monday. So, the vote for relocation for the Oakland Raiders can happen. We will discuss that a little bit more detail. The NFL competition committee kind of wants to put more discipline into the illegal hits in games. So we'll discuss that later as well. Cam Newton will go into surgery. But first, let's talk about probably one of our favorite players that we love talking about.
Sure.
And we like to talk about for a variety of reasons.
Yes,
that is Mr. Marshawn Lynch. I talked about him on Monday, about him wanting to play for wanting to play for Oakland.
Right.
That wouldn't make sense. Marshawn playing for Marshawn.
Yeah.
But I did talk about that on Monday. I'm pretty sure you talked about him on Friday.
Yep.
When the news came out that the Raiders were trying to acquire the retired running back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, turns out that his agent says that he does miss football, but he's really unpredictable, so he doesn't really know.
He's that too, yeah.
He doesn't really know if he wants to come back or not. But, I feel like the way that this has played out so far, I feel like the Raiders is the only team he wants to play for right now. Like, if he comes out of retirement and then Seattle doesn't really do anything, he's probably just going to retire it again. Like, I just think, with him not running the football on the 1 yard line to win the Super Bowl really I think it kind of really hurt him a little bit. Like, I think he felt like he should have won the game. He should have had the game in his hands. And, at the time, he was one of the top running backs of all football when the Patriots beat the Seattle Seahawks a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've been telling the listeners out here, I actually would like to see Marshawn in the Raiders uniform. I actually think it would be pretty cool. I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened already.
Here's the thing with Marshawn. So when it happened on Friday, when the news broke on Friday, it's like, oh, Marshawn Lynch may go to the Raiders. My whole thing was just like, right, but why would he go to Oakland? Like, okay, cool, he's from Oakland, right? He's from the Bay Area, and there's all the stuff of when, he was riding around in the medical cart and everything else like that when he was in Cal. He reps Oakland. Totally get that part. Also, the Raiders may not be in Oakland next year. They could be in Las Vegas, so that doesn't help right there. And B, he didn't want to come back and play for Seattle all of last year when they needed a running back, so why would he come back now? And also, you have a whole year off, so all those things together, why would he come back? And now the agent's basically saying, he's got the itch, right, to come back. He also said Marshawn Lynch is kind of unpredictable because, ask any reporter how predictable he is in the Super Bowl when he wouldn't talk to them, right? Like, that's how Marshawn Lynch is. You're not going to change Marshawn Lynch. That's just how he is at this point, and that's how he's going to be. Would I like to see him go to Oakland? Yeah. Is there any way of knowing if he's going to be good? No, because he's old now at this point. And I don't say that as any kind of a disrespect, even though that sounded very disrespectful. I'm just saying in the fact if he's a 30-year-old running back who had a year off of football, and the year he was in before that wasn't exactly the best. Right, he didn't get 1,000 yards. I think he got 400 and something yards the last year he played.
Yeah, he averaged about 3.8 yards a carry.
Right, so he wasn't what he was in the past, and that style of basically saying, okay, I could juke you or I could jump over you, but why don't I just run through you? Like, that doesn't age very well. Like, that can only go for so long before your body's like, hey, we're done with this. This is not happening anymore. Remember how you like to kind of run through things, didn't hurt as badly? Nope, now it's going to hurt a lot more. So all of that being said, I don't see how he would want to come back. Like, he might miss football, that's fine, but going back and doing the mini camps and the OTAs and the practices and everything else like that and banging every single day, like, that's going to wear on you, and I don't know if he really wants to do it. He may want to do it in theory right now, but in theory, I would like to play in the NFL, and then I'm going to go practice on Monday, Tuesday, and be like, oh, my God, this hurts so much, and why am I here? Now, forget about the fact that I am in no way in football shape enough to even be on an NFL field. Point is, oh, that would be fun until you actually do it. Then you realize, oh, no, this is a terrible idea. You know, oh, why don't I join a rec league for baseball or basketball or something like that? Because then once you start doing it, you realize, oh, this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot to do, and you've been out of the game for a while.
Yeah, and something I do want to point out that his agent, Doug Henderson,
right,
had an interview with KNBR, sports station in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
He said he was scheduled to meet with Marshawn Lynch, and he was quoted as he has not spoken to Marshawn Lynch about this at all. It was basically like the media kind of took the ball and ran with it. I think we can agree that, with Latavius Murray signing with the Minnesota Vikings, the running back position is probably the weakest position on the Raiders offense right now. Because, they have a really good offensive line. They have really good receivers. They just signed Jerry Cook at the tight end position.
Right.
They have probably one of the best young quarterbacks in the game.
Yep.
Honestly, if I'm Reggie McKenzie, when you have Marshawn Lynch, Adrian Peterson, Jamal Charles on the market, I think you should just look into the draft, honestly. That can be – because they're not going to get Leonard Fournette. He's going to be gone. Fournette?
You keep adding the L. You make him Fournette.
My bad. Fournette. He's going to be gone in the top 10. Dalvin Cook may drop all the way over there, but that's probably kind of unlikely to drop all the way at 24.
Sure.
I have a feeling maybe Joe Mixon could be a Raider, honestly. Because, Joe Mixon did visit the team a couple of days ago. But
it's oddly poetic considering their history.
Yeah, I know.
And Renegades. That's like
I don't mean poetic for that to happen, because this is kind of like a new Raiders regimen where they have like a lot of character guys.
They're still owned by a Davis.
That is true. So that's the reason why I kind of played into that. But, I feel like Mixon will be there when they are drafting. But there's a variety of options they can do here. But I do think Joe Mixon can be an option because, he does have the baggage, but he's also very talented.
We could also just, if the Raiders wanted to basically pull a Dallas Cowboys and basically say, like, all right, well, how about this? Instead of us waiting until the 24th, because I think that's what it is, the 24th pick, instead of waiting for the 24th pick, all right, take our first-round pick, take our third-round pick, let's get the top, 12 pick, right? Let's get the 12th pick, the 14th pick, whatever else like that, so we can get McCaffrey or Cook or Fournette or whatever else like that. Like, they can just say, like, all right, take our first and third, let's get Fournette, all right, cool, let's go home, after that, like, kind of thing. Like, that might be the route that they go because the Cowboys basically said, cool, we got a quarterback, we got a wide receiver, we got an offensive line, all right, let's get a running back to make this all go together, and then they started doing a lot better. For the Raiders, it could be the same thing. We got our quarterback. We got our tight end just now. We got our wide receivers. Let's get a running back.
Yeah, and Chris McCaffrey's the guy I completely forgot about.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea why. But I can see him in the Raiders uniform. He did play in the Bay Area his entire collegiate career.
Mm-hmm.
But I seriously think, if let's just say Marshawn Lynch does go to the Raiders, they're going to have to pay him. I don't know if they're willing to pay him his $9 million and his $10 million that he's owed, and because he's still on a contract.
Well, no, yeah, but this could just be a Tony Romo situation, right? Where it's just like you have the rights to the player, and once he basically says like I want to play in the NFL again, some team's going to want to take him, but they might just have to release him, right? The Seattle Seahawks, they may just have to release him and go from there. And then at that point, you don't have to pay him as much. You only have to pay him the salary of like a minimum contract. Even if you trade for him, while the salary is a bit high, I mean, you can restructure that stuff as you go along. That's, you want to play for us? Yeah, cool. Take half of what you're doing right now kind of thing. Like, you can strong-arm him and like that. And for Marshawn, the leverage he has isn't that high. Yeah, he is one of the best running backs in the past decade, but he also has been playing for a decade. And for a running back, that's a very, very, very long time. In other kind of like positions, you can be there for like 15 years, right? Wide receiver, you can be a little bit longer. Quarterback, you'd be there for about 20 years. Running back, you get about a decade. If you're good, if you're really good, you get a decade. And he was at one point really good, but
yeah, he was even good in Buffalo. He actually had over 1,000 yards his first 2 years.
Yeah,
people don't remember that.
Yeah, no, he was good in Buffalo, but like he also, how long ago was that? When he was good in Buffalo.
I think the thing with Buffalo, they had like way too many running backs there. Because I remember they had Fred Jackson, then they drafted C.J. Spiller. So there's like no room for him to play. So I do think that him going to Seattle was the best thing.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But at this point in his career, and the other thing is we could talk about something like Adrian Peterson, who's another player that the Raiders are kind of looking at a little bit. Adrian Peterson's the best running back in the last 20 years, right? That includes LaDainian Tomlinson. And Marshawn's a top 10 running back in the last 20 years, right? He's really good. He's not at like that level kind of a thing, right? And I don't see teams willing to take as much of a risk on him because of how it ended, right? Because also there is the whole thing of, distraction, quote unquote, and how the NFL loves to kind of push that narrative of like, oh, he's a distraction. He doesn't talk to the media. He got so much flack from not talking to the media instead of like actually saying something. He got so much flack for just being like, look, don't talk to me. I'm fine. I'm just going to do my own thing. Team's going to look at that as like, well, maybe you mixed that in the fact if his production's low or we're not going to sign him. Like, NFL teams are erratic. They don't want to sign Kaepernick for multiple reasons that aren't football related. But who knows how this is going to go for Marshawn. Like, I hope he plays again, but if he does, there's no guarantee he's going to be good.
Yeah, and, have you seen the tweet that Marquette King posted? Yeah, he was like, because if you guys don't remember, Marshawn Lynch announced his retirement in a tweet, with his cleats hanging up in the, what you call this?
Telephone pole.
Telephone pole, or the telephone wire.
Telephone wire, yeah.
So Marquette King was like, he posted a picture of himself getting those cleats, or like something that kind of like looks similar to the cleats, and he was like, "Hey, Marshawn Lynch, I got your cleats back for you, bro." So
Marquette King is cool. I like
him.
King.
He's really fun, man. He's like probably one of the funnest. Not just the.
He's the funnest punter in the NFL, period. But
he's also one of the funnest players.
Yeah,
that's the thing. But it remains to be seen what happens with Marshawn Lynch and what the Raiders do at the running back position. All right, well, we're going to take our first break here, and when we get back, we're going to discuss the Tom Brady missing jersey saga and what has pretty much occurred over the past few days. We have more news now, and we'll probably get into news of Cam Newton having surgery. So we're going to discuss those two things when we get back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
And welcome back to Going to Meet Concepts Football Podcast. And Monday, I did talk about the news of Tom Brady's missing Super Bowl jersey being found in Mexico. Well, there's a lot more that has come about in this story. And it's kind of turned into a saga a little bit. When the FBI, they tracked it down. And it has been, well, I should say, allegedly, the person that stole Tom Brady's Super Bowl jersey, he was an international media member, or at least was posing to be one.
Right.
the guy is known as Martin Mauricio Ortega. And, he went to the Super Bowl as a working journalist but spent the week collecting selfies, autographs, including Tom Brady, and was telling colleagues that he was there as a fan. So he was there in Houston, interacting with all these football greats and all that. And, he told the Associated Press that he brought back multiple NFL memorabilia items, including a Kurt Warner jersey that he hoped to sell to a former quarterback for thousands of dollars. So, Brady's jersey went missing from the Patriots locker room after the game. And I'm not sure if you guys saw this video, but there was a video of Ortega going into the locker room. I think he was kind of like snuck in there, and then he took a selfie with Tom Brady and then like snuck out. He was holding something. I'm not sure if you saw the video that Jay Glazer was talking about on Fox Sports 1.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, a lot of this has transpired. And Von Miller's helmet from Super Bowl 50 apparently is being returned as well after being missing. So, we do have a better idea of who the guy is that took Brady's missing jersey. We do.
I do love the fact so much of how it's just a guy that's just like, oh, not only am I going to take Brady's jersey this year, I took it the year before that, or 2 years, I guess, before that. Von Miller, I get your helmet. Like, he's just, like, racking up all these things. And, like, also, is he a media person? Like, not really. Like, he's just kind of found a way in, like, just perseverance and just, like, eventually you see the person enough times, you're like, oh, yeah, clearly he's a media member, right? It's one of those things, if you walk with confidence, people aren't going to question what you do. You can walk anywhere, and if you have the confidence just look like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here, people kind of back off with that whole thing, which kind of seems like what he did.
Yeah, well, he was a former director of a tabloid magazine in Mexico.
Sure.
So
that doesn't make him a media member now.
I know, but that's what kind of gave him, well, I should say gave him credibility, but I think that's what made him get credentials.
Right.
As an international media member, so he's obviously not doing it now, but
right.
Still.
Look, there's part of me that like really respects the fact that you have that little self-awareness and that little shame that you're just going to basically do all this type of stuff like that. There is some part of me that's just like, wow, that's admirable, also felonious. And all right, so Brady got his jersey back. Congratulations, that's good for you. I'm glad everything worked out. Also, and look, let's get some jokes off this whole thing, right? Like, let's kind of go back with it.
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's go with these jokes.
Do this.
All right,
let's do
so
it.
This guy. All right, so he decided, all right, I'm going to go to the Super Bowl, which is already an ambitious goal in itself if you're not a part of the media, right? Like, even if you're part of the media, you got to go through these processes. You can do it, but it's like, it's not that hard to do it, but you got to go through a handful of steps and whatever. I don't know if you ever watched this TV show called Leverage. It was a show that was on like 2008 to like 2012 or 13. It was on TNT. It wasn't like a big show by any stretch, but it was basically about con men, right? And it was basically how, people do bad things, be it like, insurance people or, like dirty cops, something like that. Like, it's just like, oh, people do bad things, and then they take all these people who was like a hacker, a guy who's a good con man, like, and they just basically kind of like get the stuff back from him because normal people can't really do the stuff. And it's like, oh, we help you out. I say all that because in the middle of the shows, they would do stuff where they would have fake identities. They would hack into computers to basically make things work in their favor. Which, in a smaller version, I feel like is what this guy did. He basically decided, like, all right, look, so I got to get this disguise, right? But I'm not going to get a disguise. I'm just going to keep going all these times and get what I want. Like, I've seen people like that. I've seen guys that basically, if you say enough times, I work for Name the Outcast, I work for Fox Sports 1, I work for CBS, I work for whoever, like, and you have enough of a credential and you can, like, fake it enough, they will let you in, by the way. Like, it's not hard to do that. And he just started getting in a few times, then eventually it was just like, oh, hi, Jim. Like, I understand the guy's name is not Jim, but I'm talking like security guard. Like, he just walked up to the security guard. Hey, Jim, I'm back. Oh, how you been? Oh, good. How's the wife? How's the kids? They start talking about it. They let him in. Now, he's in. He already infiltrated the Super Bowl. That's step one. Now, step two, get memorabilia. And apparently he tried to get Marshall Faulk to autograph one of the stuff, and he got mad when Marshall Faulk didn't do it. Which is just another level of bravado where it's just like, I'm going to literally steal stuff from people and have them sign their own stolen stuff. Which is just like, hold on. Like, I have some kind of, like, ego with certain things. You have certain ego with certain... Everyone has ego with certain things, right? You always think you can do stuff that you may not be able to actually do because bravado and ego and whatever, that's fine. This guy, like, you think you're going to be able to steal this stuff at the Super Bowl. Like, you imagine how fearful he was when this all came out? When ESPN was just like, Brady's jersey is apparently stolen. He's just kind of sitting back like, oh, no. Like, he's just like, they're going to catch me because, by the way, it's the Super Bowl. It's not like you're doing this in a preseason game where they're not going to have cameras everywhere. It's the Super Bowl. They pay millions of dollars for 30 seconds of advertising in the middle of the game. No. They will find you. And they found him. It took a couple of months, but you had the FBI look for you. The FBI. You understand what kind of jobs the FBI do? Way bigger than the NFL. They try to find people in other countries that are bad people. That's their job. And they had to get some guy who he probably messed up on the job. He probably got somebody fired. Or there was some like snafu where all of a sudden he screwed up really badly. And his punishment was like, okay, fine. Instead of just being the desk guy, here, you go find Brady's jersey. That's your job now. That was probably a punishment. This whole thing.
Definitely, by far. And there was a sports editor named Arturo Palafox. He works for a newspaper in Mexico called 24 Horas. I don't even say that right. Horas, yeah. I'm so sorry. I can't speak Spanish.
24 Horas, yeah.
But, he works for the site. He saw Ortega.
Yeah.
In Houston. He saw him in the media center. He saw him in the shuttle to and from the hotel. He said he was surprised that someone with the rank of a newspaper director would be covering the Super Bowl as a reporter, which I would be surprised too if I were in his shoes. And he said that Ortega was there not to work. He was there as a fan. He was there on a vacation. And Palafox said that Ortega was carrying a bag containing past Super Bowl jerseys worn by Kurt Warner, Emmitt Smith, which was, actually Emmitt Smith's book. And it's not really clear how many Super Bowls Ortega has attended, but he was credentialed at least far as back as 2005. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to say that he's been stealing a lot.
So he got a Kurt Warner jersey when he was with the Cardinals. He got all these jerseys from Super Bowl. So he's had these things before, and now he's trying to go back and, and I'm speculating. This is reckless speculation. But let's say he stole Kurt Warner's jersey from 2009 or 10, whenever the Falcons or the Cardinals were in the Super Bowl. He probably went up to him and was like, hey, I have a jersey, sign it for you. Oh, this looks like something that I wore in a game one time. Maybe, who knows? Sign it for me.
It's like, what's all that grass doing on there?
It's fine. I dropped it in the grass one time. It was wet. It happens.
I was mowing the lawn.
Yeah. It's like, like freshly cut grass. I was kind of wet, stuff like that. That's my bad.
No, and then Ortega was actually also seen at Super Bowl auctions during the week in Houston. So Mexican media has reported that Ortega's basement was full of the NFL and sports memorabilia. I just got to say this, man. So the FBI, they can find the guy who took Brady's jersey, but they can't find the person or people that killed Biggie and Tupac.
20 years.
20 years. I have to throw that out there. I'm sorry.
20 years.
I'm sorry. I have to throw that out there.
Long time.
But I had to say that. I'm a huge Biggie and Tupac fan. Come on, man.
So am I.
Yeah. Come on. It's been 20 years. We deserve to know.
So is everybody from our generation.
Are they really dead? We don't know. Maybe they're in Cuba. No, I'm kidding. No, they're not. I don't believe in conspiracy theories like that. But we're going to take our second break here. And we didn't get to talk about Cam Newton yet, but we will when we get back here at the Golden State Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to Going to Me Concepts Football Podcast. And it looks like Carolina Panthers quarterback, Mr. Cameron Newton, will have to undergo surgery on March 30th to repair a partially torn rotator cuff on his throwing shoulder. So he is going to be sidelined for off-season workouts, but should be ready for training camp in late July. So, he's most likely going to miss OTAs. And you know what? This came at a critical time. Because, after Cam Newton had probably one of the best seasons in the NFL for a quarterback, he was pretty average to mediocre last season. So, honestly, I think this is the year where he has to prove that he can be that same guy from 2015. So, this injury has lingered since Week 14 against the Chargers. The MRI the following week revealed the partial tear. The team did not actually report the tear at that time. So Newton has been limited in practice and for the remainder of the season. So he was limited in practice for that amount of time. He didn't miss a start. So they didn't report this at all. And it looks like, honestly, though, on the upside, it looks like he will be ready for training camp, so that it's not really too bad that he's getting surgery at this perfect time. But no, this is a crucial time for Cam Newton in his career, and I think because it's not a make or break season. It's not. I think it'll be kind of. I don't want to be a blowhard and say, he has to have a make or break season, because he's not. He's just 2 years away from having a really good season. But I feel like he has to be a lot more improved than how he played in 2016.
Cam will be fine. Cam, did you have a good year last year? No. Fine. You need to do better than you did last year. Fine. Also, he had a 15-1 season 2 years ago, so the whole thing of just like, I don't know if he's that good. Stop. Just stop. Like, Cam Newton is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Period. End of story. You can go get
You
out.
can argue against that. I'm not arguing against you, but you can argue against it.
Top 10?
Yeah, you can. I'm not going to argue against you because I think he's a top 10 quarterback too. We have people in the office that don't think
I understand Ben doesn't like him. That's fine.
Yeah, he doesn't.
But also, like, he is so valuable to that team. Like, name me another offensive player that's as valuable as he is anywhere close to him. Like, Jonathan Stewart, no. Mike Tolbert, no. What's his name?
Calvin Benjamin.
No.
We seen what Cam Newton did without Calvin Benjamin. He went all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and then Calvin Benjamin started playing again. He came back the year after that. Not the same kind of player, right? He didn't even have 1,000 yards, right? The year before that, he doesn't even have 2,000 yards total in the first 2 years. That you can say, he's a young wide receiver. Cool. Also, Calvin Benjamin isn't exactly what you thought he could have been, right? Because he's been in the league for 3 years. And he got injured 1 year, fine. You got to write that off or whatever. But he is not necessarily someone who's like that explosive of a wide receiver, right? Like he drops a lot of passes, right? Like he literally caught like 63 passes out of 118, and before that, 73 out of 146. Like literally, he drops a lot of passes. He's not that good. Greg Olsen, really good. Not anywhere near what Cam Newton means to that team. Their offense is basically like, look, we got Cam, where we're going to make this work around him because he's Cam Newton. And we're going to basically make it, him versus the world kind of thing like that. The same thing they did with Peyton Manning forever. Peyton Manning was just like, look, we got Peyton Manning. Look, we got Andrew Luck. And we're basically going to ride this into the ground because he can basically be the cheat code to make up for everything else like that. Same thing they do in Atlanta with Julio Jones or Cincinnati and A.J. Green. Like sometimes you just have the players, Adrian Peterson back in Minnesota, who they're the guy. They're the one that's basically the entire offense. And we're going to make this stuff work, right? We're going to basically try and surround you with players, but whatever, if it doesn't work, we still got him. He's going to be the one that basically makes it all work. And it worked to a 15-1 season, an MVP, and a Super Bowl appearance. Then last year it didn't work out as well because that happens sometimes. Unless you're the New England Patriots, you're not going to repeat the success every single year, year after year after year after year. The Broncos did make the playoffs this year also. Like, that didn't happen either. Now, they didn't have a quarterback really the whole season. But, you know, as good as that team was, they couldn't make it back. So the NFL is hard, is basically what I'm trying to get here. And the Falcons could be good next year. The Panthers could be good next year. The Saints probably not because their defense is so bad. But there's other teams in the NFL that can be a good team. Even the Bucs were showing promise last year. Like, Cam Newton is amazing. And I'm not going to basically try and say that, like, if he has a bad year this year, that they have any reason to not stick with him for another 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think that's kind of being a little over dramatic there, saying that this is a make or break year. But I do want to point out that his inaccuracy was evident.
Yeah, that's fine.
And he was kind of inaccurate before the injury and then after the injury. From weeks 11 to 17, Cam Newton completed an NFL worst of 47% of his passes, which were 233 throws. He completed an NFL worst 49% of passes thrown 5 yards downfield or fewer, which is at 83 throws. And he also completed an NFL worst of 54% of passes thrown 10 yards downfield or fewer, which came out to be 142 throws. So he was inaccurate, but you know what? Like, who else do they have on this team?
Nobody.
Exactly. So honestly, if you take okay, because remember when Cam Newton missed that game with the concussion?
Mm-hmm.
They did not look like the same team. And remember when Derek Anderson actually started that one play? What did he do? Threw a pick six, and that team was not the same, even when they put Cam Newton back in the game.
Yep.
So Cam Newton is important to this team, okay? So he'll be fine. He'll be fine. Well, anyway, let's move on to a couple of stories here before we leave. It looks like the vote on Oakland, the Oakland Raiders, to relocate to Las Vegas, it could occur next week at the NFL meetings. And, of course, you need two-thirds of the owners you need 24 out of 32 votes to approve the move. So it looks like the Las Vegas Raiders, we can hear it possibly on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to happen. Looks like they're going to go to Las Vegas, and that on some level makes me sad because Oakland is slowly losing all of its teams. The Warriors are going to move basically to San Francisco. The Raiders are going to move to Las Vegas. That leaves Oakland, and they're in a really, 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 really bad stadium or arena or whatever you want. They're in a really bad, stadium. They're in a really bad place right now as far as, like, the place that they play. And the team's not good, so they don't draw a lot of fans. And the payroll's low. So, like, it does make me sad for the, like, city of Oakland losing basically all these teams probably within the span of the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, and, the A's have talked about moving to San Jose.
Right.
They've been talking about that for a decade now. But I do want to point out that the Raiders actually have 2 more years under lease at the Coliseum.
Yeah, but they keep signing those, like, 1 or 2 year leases
they
just
have,
to basically extend it.
They have 2 more years, so they will be in Oakland for at least 2 more. They'll have to play at a temporary facility in 2019. I'll probably be in Vegas. So in 2020, the start of the new decade, we will see the Las Vegas Raiders if it does get improved.
Most likely, yep.
All right, so before we go, we have to point out that Troy Vincent, former NFL player, he's actually in the NFLPA office, I believe. I forgot what his position was.
Scroll down. Yeah, he's the vice president of football operations.
Yes, there you go. So he tweeted that he had a series of tweets on illegal hit deterrence and excessive celebration. So he wants the NFL competition committee to explore ways to make dangerous hits result in immediate ejections. I can't even talk today, man. So, yeah, he wants to make these illegal hits pretty much have a lot more discipline, such as ejections and possibly suspensions, which is maybe a little harsh, but when you think of some of the hits here, it's just another way of making the game safer. But, when you look at these amounts of tweets here, Troy Vincent said committee is also exploring ways considering immediate ejections or suspensions to take dangerous hits out of our game. What I say to this is that I don't think you can take the dangerous hits out of the game. It just really, because it's such a fast-paced game, how can you regulate how players hit each other? And I get you don't have to hit with your head. You don't have to lead with your head. But the game is so fast, it's kind of hard to control your body sometimes.
100% is hard to control your body. People, catch a ball high and then they crouch down so that way they don't get hit hard. Then all of a sudden you get hit in the head and penalty and kicked out. This is going to be really hard to regulate. You're basically trying to make a gladiatorial kind of game, this really violent game. You're trying to make that safe, which is really, really hard to do. Now, they've actually made good strides or whatever because, you take something 10 years ago, this big old hit, people would have been like, oh, that's so cool. Now we're like, oh, no, he's got a concussion. He's out for the game. Our brains have totally – that's kind of a weird thing to say with that, but our brains have totally flipped as far as, concussions and what those actually do to your body. We have totally had a 180 thinking about what it actually means, right? We go away from, oh, it's a great hit to, our emotions totally flip. So that part's good. And can they make us, inherently violent game safe? They can make it safer, which may be what they're doing here. They're kind of doing the whole thing like the NBA where they have flagrant fouls, right? Where it's just if you foul somebody, that's fine. You get 6 of those. But if you basically just try and spear a guy all blue, no, you're kicked out of the game. And it's the same thing here. If you just all of a sudden want to just rock a dude in the neck, then you're going to get kicked out of the game. Or if you do something really bad, you get kicked out of the game. And they've also done stuff here with the whole rules committee and everything else like that. They're trying to get it safe as far as penalizing you for all these, illegal hits. They're also regulating fun again. They're regulating fun. They're doing stuff where they're basically saying, we're going to have, things where we can, we're developing things where you can have an educational training video for players to show clear examples of appropriate and inappropriate celebrations. Why are they regulating fun?
Damn
why?
It, calm down.
I don't understand why you care so much about making things not fun. It's the equivalent of when you're a little kid and you're listening to music and you like the music and then all of a sudden your dad knocks on the door. Why are you listening to music? Stop listening to the music. Stop having fun. Why? Why are you doing this? Let me enjoy my music. Let me enjoy Joe Horn taking a cell phone out of the pylon. Or the goalpost. Let me enjoy Terrell Owens with the pom-poms or signing the football with a Sharpie. Let me enjoy all these different things. Let me have fun with these celebrations. Soccer does it. Soccer loves doing it. Baseball, they let you do it. Now, they also throw it at your head if you do it, but they at least let you do it without a penalty. Just let people have fun. If you're going to do it for 5-10 minutes, fine. I get that's excessive, but I don't like it.
That means we get no more Hingo Me Kringleberry.
None of that.
Yeah, we don't get that.
That'll be something like that if you're doing a Key and Peele sketch where it's just you're going for 3-4 minutes. Fine. Fine. I get that. That's probably excessive. Probably shouldn't do that. But if it's for a couple of seconds, let people have fun. You understand how hard it is to play in the NFL, much less score a touchdown? It's really hard. If you went on a football field, you would die. I would die. 90% of the people on this earth would die.
I don't know about dying. You'll probably get really...
Do a slant route against Ray Lewis in his prime. See how that's working out for you. You die.
I'll probably wouldn't...
Death to you. Die. That's not...
Technically, you won't die. I probably would be on life support.
Well, either way, bad day for you. The NFL's really hard, man. It's the best of the best athletes who have kind of malicious intent because their whole goal on defense is basically to say, oh, that guy has the ball, let's ruin his life. That's the job of an NFL defensive player. It's basically to say, oh, Colin Kaepernick has the ball, let's make sure he can't spell when he gets to age 55. It's really, really violent.
Yeah, it's very violent as well. So this is going to be something on the agenda for the the league meetings next week. Right. The NFL competition committee has a lot to talk about. I did talk about the overtime, rules change, from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. They have the thing with hiring full-time refs. So we have a lot to discuss next week.
Yeah.
Regarding these meetings.
Yeah.
All right, but for now, we're going to go. This is going to conclude today's episode. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back tomorrow to discuss any type of news that happens over the next 24 hours. As always, I'm Jeremiah.
And I'm Anthony.
And I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. You guys have a great day.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.